I have tried to be diplomatic. I like to believe I've tried to be diplomatic about what's happening in Olympia this legislative session. I like to think that I have used facts and reason and common sense in trying to make an argument that lawmakers need to prioritize public safety now more than ever. And I like to think that I have celebrated both Democrats and Republicans who have been focused on that issue. I celebrated 2 bipartisan bills introduced at the beginning of the session that would have made meaningful improvements to our state's broken police pursuit policy. And I had high hopes for those 2 bills. Instead, what's happened? They've been watered down. You have a segment of the Democratic Party in Olympia that simply refuses to acknowledge that the bill they passed in 2021 that dramatically limits the instances where police can pursue even dangerous suspects, they refuse to admit that it has had a direct impact on public safety across our state, that it's killing people, that it's leading to the victimization of people. They refuse to admit it because they're cowards. And I've come to the conclusion today that lawmakers who continue to support that failed policy, lawmakers who continue to advocate against changing it, they genuinely do not care if people die, as long as it means they don't have to admit that they were wrong, as long as it means that they can continue to pander to the progressive wing of their party, which they think will help them get reelected. What a sad place that is to be as a politician. And why do I bring this up today? Why am I pissed off about this today? Well, I'm pissed off because 2 kids are dead. A 6-year-old and an 8-year-old.
A deadly crash on I-82, 2 children killed, and authorities suspect the driver involved was under the influence. That tragic story leads our newscast tonight. I'm Alyssa Warner. Cap KV's Emily Goodell tells us the troopers believe the suspect was driving under the influence and had been involved in a police chase just about an hour before the crash.
This happened in Sunnyside, Washington, and it is the natural result of our state's failed police pursuit law. A law that makes it nearly impossible for police to pursue a suspect, even if they believe that that suspect could go on to kill someone. In Sunnyside, Washington, a 20-year-old man from Springfield, Missouri named Keith Goings was clocked on Interstate 90 going 111 miles an hour. 111 miles an hour. Now, State Patrol troopers realized that they could not pursue him. They could not pursue him because under the law, as it's currently structured, speeding is not a justification for a pursuit. What happened next was absolutely inevitable. About an hour later, on Interstate 82 near Sunnyside, Goings slammed his Ford Mustang into a Nissan Altima, killing 2 children who were inside. 6 years old and 8 years old. 6 years old and 8 years old. And I have seen no willingness from the people who continue to advocate for this police pursuit policy to, even in the light of these deaths, make a turn, change direction, acknowledge that, you know what, there is more evidence that this police pursuit policy is hurting people than it is that it's saving lives. And in fact, I would point to your own data. For Democrats who have continued, remember what we were told? Senator Manka Dhingra, chair of the Law and Justice Committee, wouldn't give the solid bipartisan police pursuit fix a hearing. Why? Because she said that you were being too emotional.
I think this policy has become so politicized that people are no longer looking at data or best practices. They're having an emotional reaction to it.
What else did she say? She said they didn't have any data.
I have not seen any data that correlates the legislation we passed with increase in crime.
And to the contrary, she said that the state had data showing that the 2021 police pursuit law was actually saving innocent lives.
The data that I have seen come in says that the deaths of bystanders has dramatically gone down. And so our streets are safer for innocent individuals who are just going about their day. And that's the only data I'm aware of. So I'll say the problem that we were trying to solve appears to have happened. We're seeing fewer people dying just because they were at the wrong place at the wrong time.
But might I remind you that the very data she's alluding to there has not only been debunked by an expert in law enforcement statistical analysis, but it has changed over time. And it now actually shows the exact opposite of what she's claiming. This is a study that was done by a retired UW professor. And back when it was first posted at the end of January, it claimed that there had been a 73% reduction A 73% reduction in people killed as a result of an active vehicular pursuit. It claimed that there had been 5 innocent bystanders killed in police pursuits in the year and a half before the new legislation went into effect. 5. And then it claimed in the year and a half after that law went into effect, there was an impressive 73% reduction in the loss of life, including a reduction in the number of innocent bystanders killed. That number going from 5 to 3. But might I remind you that in early February, February 4th, that study was taken down from the website that was hosting it. And it disappeared for about a 24-hour period of time before it was put back up. And when it was put back up, the numbers told a very different story. They said that it wasn't 5 innocent bystanders that were killed, but rather it was 2. And post-reform, the new data showed that the number of innocent bystanders killed in the year and a half since the law went into effect was 3. So when Manka Dhingra says this,
the data that I have seen come in says that the deaths of bystanders has dramatically gone down. And so our streets are safer for innocent individuals who are just going about their day. And that's the only data I'm aware of. So I'll say the problem that we were trying to solve appears to have happened. We're seeing fewer people dying just because they were at the wrong place at the wrong time.
The sole report that she has been using to justify that position, to justify statements like that, says the contrary. It actually says that now more innocent bystanders have been killed in the year and a half since that police pursuit went into law than in the year and a half prior. Now, don't get me wrong. I think this entire report is absolute bullshit. And when you're talking about the differences in a number like 9, which don't get me wrong, anybody killed is a tragedy. But when you're talking about small discrepancies, 2 killed this year and a half, 3 killed this year and a half, and you're trying to make that somehow statistically relevant, I find it incredibly disingenuous. But if we're playing by your rules and we're to believe that this report is the holy grail of information that you're basing your legislative decisions off of, then Senator Dhingra, it looks like more innocent bystanders were actually killed after you passed the failed police pursuit policy. If we're going to use the study that you've been using to prop up your position on this, the only lives you've successfully saved are the lives of criminals and their accomplices. You haven't saved any innocent lives. You have no facts or justification for a comment like this.
Our streets are safer for innocent individuals who are just going about their day. And that's the only data I'm aware of. So I'll say the problem that we were trying to solve appears to have happened. We're seeing fewer people dying just because they were at the wrong place at the wrong time.
No, your policy has cost innocent lives. Some we know about, like a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. And untold numbers of people who we don't know about, who have been victimized by suspects who have successfully fled from law enforcement because of your efforts at police reform. And you're holding the rest of us hostage with your failed ideas, your failed ideology, and you have the absolute nerve to tell us that we're upset by this because we're being too emotional.
I think this policy has become so politicized that people are no longer looking at data or best practices. They're having an emotional reaction to it.
Senator Dhingra, here's what I want you to do. You go to the parents of that 6-year-old and that 8-year-old. You go to the family of that 6-year-old and that 8-year-old, and you tell them that they're being too emotional. And you let us know how that goes.